We broke into an abandoned farmhouse. Someone was inside. For the first 20 years of my life, I lived in a really small countryside town, the kind of place where nothing ever really happened. It was quiet. Almost too quiet sometimes. Everyone knew each other. There were only a few main roads, and most days felt exactly the same, especially during the summer when school was out and there was even less to do. As a kid, it got boring fast. There weren't any real places to go. No big hangout spots, just fields, trees, and long empty roads. But there was one place people talked about, on the very edge of town, far enough that you wouldn't just accidentally pass it. There was this old farmhouse. It sat alone in the middle of a huge, open field, easily a couple hundred acres of land around it. You could see it from the road if you drove far enough out, just sitting there in the distance, slowly falling apart. Growing up, I must have seen it hundreds of times from far away, and every time it looked the same. Empty, silent, untouched. People had stories about it, of course. Every small town has something like that. Some said the people who lived there died under strange circumstances. Others said it was haunted, but honestly, most of it sounded exaggerated. The only things anyone actually knew were that the house had been there since the early 1900s, and that whoever owned it had died decades before I was even born. Eventually, the county bought the land, but for whatever reason, they never developed it, never tore the house down. Nothing. They just put up a fence around the entire property. Old wire fencing stretched across the perimeter, with signs posted every so often that read, "State property, no trespassing." And that was it. The house just sat there, year after year, rotting, waiting. When I was 17, maybe 18, it was the middle of summer break. One of those nights where you've got nothing to do, nowhere to go, and way too much time to think of bad ideas. I was with my best friend Marcus. We'd been driving around for a while, just killing time when the idea came up. I don't even remember who said it first, but somehow, we both immediately agreed. We were going to check out the farmhouse. Even at the time, we knew it was stupid. We weren't trying to vandalize anything or steal anything. It was just curiosity. That kind of curiosity that feels harmless until you're actually there. We grabbed a couple of flashlights and drove out toward the edge of town. The further we went, the darker it got. Streetlights disappeared. Houses got fewer and farther apart, until eventually it was just us, the road, and open land. We parked the car off to the side, away from the road so it wouldn't be obvious. We both sat there for a second before getting out. I remember feeling that slight hesitation, like part of me already knew this was a bad idea. But we went anyway. We started walking toward where the property was, instead of cutting straight across the field, which would have left us completely exposed. We followed the fence line. It took longer, but it kept us hidden. The fence itself looked old, slightly rusted in places, sagging in others, and every so often we'd pass one of those warning signs. No trespassing. It felt different seeing those up close, more real. Eventually we reached the backside of the property, where the field met a stretch of woods. From there, we could see the house much more clearly, and up close. It looked worse than I expected. The wood on the outside had turned this deep, almost black color, like it had absorbed years of weather. There was no paint left at all. Vines crawled up the sides of the house, wrapping around windows and stretching toward the roof. Parts of the structure looked worn, but not destroyed. That was the strange part. It didn't look like it was collapsing. It looked like it was holding on. We made our way up to the side of the house. Neither of us said much at that point. We were both focused, listening, watching, trying not to make noise. We found a window that was slightly open, not broken, not forced open, just open. That should have been a red flag. But we didn't think about it at the time. I climbed in first, pulling myself through slowly, trying not to make noise as I dropped down inside. Then I turned and helped Marcus in, and the moment we were both inside, we stopped. The air felt thick, heavy, like it had been sitting still for years. When I moved my flashlight, I could see dust floating everywhere, just drifting slowly through the beam, and it was completely silent, not just quiet, silent in a way that almost felt unnatural. No wind, no insects, no distant sounds from outside, nothing. We started moving through the house, slowly. Each step we took made the floor creak under us. Some boards dipped slightly when we stepped on them. Every sound felt amplified, like the house itself was listening. After a couple of minutes, that feeling started to settle in, that deep, uncomfortable feeling in your chest. The kind that tells you something isn't right, even if you don't know why. Then Marcus stopped. and quietly said my name. Sam. I turned toward him. He was staring up. I followed his gaze to the ceiling. At first, I didn't notice anything, but then I saw it, a faint orange glow, barely visible, seeping through the cracks between the floorboards above us. It didn't make sense. There shouldn't have been any light in that house. Not electricity, not anything. We stood there for a few seconds, just staring at it. Neither of us saying what we were both thinking. We should leave, but instead, we walked toward the stairs. The staircase creaked loudly with every step, and the higher we went, the more visible the glow became. At the top there was a narrow hallway. Doors lined both sides, all of them closed, except for one detail, from underneath one of the doors. The orange light was much brighter, and flickering. Candlelight! We both stopped a few feet away from the door, just staring at it. The house was still completely silent, and that was the worst part. I walked up slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. My heart was pounding now. I leaned in and pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. No voices. No movement. Just silence. I hesitated, just for a second. Then I reached out and turned the handle. The door creaked open, loud, echoing through the house, and what I saw inside made my entire body lock up. There were people, 3 men, kneeling in a circle on the floor, candles placed around them, casting that orange flickering light across the room. Their heads were lowered slightly, their bodies completely still. They weren't talking, they weren't moving, and even after the door opened, even after the noise, they didn't react. Not at all. It was like they didn't even acknowledge we were there. Or worse, like they already knew. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds, maybe less. It felt longer. Then Marcus grabbed my arm, and we ran down the stairs, fast, trying to be quiet, but everything sounded loud. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. We reached the window. Marcus climbed out first, and just as I started climbing out, I heard it. Movement, heavy footsteps, multiple, running, from upstairs, down the hallway, then down the stairs, right toward us. I didn't think, I just jumped. We ran, straight into the woods, as fast as we could. We didn't stop until the house was completely out of sight. When we finally slowed down, trying to catch our breath, we heard it, a loud slam, coming from the direction of the farmhouse. We didn't go back. We didn't talk about it much after that, and years later, when I passed through that area again, the house was gone, completely gone, like it had never been there. But the part that stayed with me all these years is that they didn't react until we tried to leave.